Are denials easy or hard? I'll start this one off, Jason. I think denials are objectively difficult. I think that's where we get into, it doesn't matter how prepared you are or how much you know. If I am fighting a denial for myself, and I have a few denials, and so I'm just thinking of what I've been denied. If I went and fought them myself, would it be difficult? Absolutely. You know, it would be it would be difficult. I have a stutter. You're gonna have to get over it, okay? It's been like that my whole life too. But first, you have to figure out why you were denied. Was it the in-service event? If it's the in-service event, meaning you have no evidence from service, that is going to be off the bat the hardest denial to combat. 1,000%. It can be done. It's just really, really difficult. The second is a current diagnosis. That's the easy one. If you don't have a current diagnosis, well, what do? You go get diagnosed, right? Whether that's private, that would be a little faster, or through the VA. Through the VA, getting a formal diagnostic code, which will come in an ICD code. The VA healthcare system use ICD codes as well, but they also use SCTs, which are treatment codes. For VA rating purposes, being treated for something is a diagnosis, okay? So in-service event, difficult. Current diagnosis, easy. In the nexus, I would actually say is difficult. If you are lacking the nexus, meaning you have the in-service event and you have the current diagnosis, but you don't have the nexus, it's difficult because now a C&P examiner was unable to come up with an at least as likely. We're not in a courtroom. It's not, without a shadow of a doubt. It is, hey, this might have came from that. There's a 50% chance it came from this. There's a 50% chance it didn't come from that. The VA is going to service connect that. That's at least as likely as not 50-50. And so what happened when you lack the nexus is the examiner could not say 50-50 service connected. Okay, well, now you need to figure out, well, why did they say that? And this is when it gets difficult because now you're looking at a C&P examiner's rationale. Who's a medical professional, whether that's an NP, a PA, an MD, whatever that looks like, you're going to have to combat that rationale. Says it came from this, but they don't have the evidence to back up that finding, okay? So now what do you have to do? And this is where the sucky part is one of two options. One, go get a private nexus letter and a private DBQ, which costs money, which sucks, okay? And that's not a guaranteed slam dunk. Or you can do both, or go find an accredited attorney to fight that in appeals. And both of those options are like pick your poison, and denials are just, I would say they're objectively difficult outside of you weren't diagnosed, go get the diagnosis, submit the claim. If you're missing that in-service events, you are fighting a losing battle in my opinion. Right, Jason, if you're ready, go ahead.
Yeah, so there's denials and then there's you disagree with the VA. And I like to talk about disagreeing with the VA's decision because sometimes they award you service connection, but you disagree with the rating. So you can kind of lump all that together in disagreements. So on a denial aspect, oftentimes, the lion's share of the time, it's going to be nexus. I mean, that's usually what it is. Followed by diagnosis. But most of the time, it's the nexus aspect. Now, a diagnosis, or a denial, rather. A denial is difficult. And what that tells me usually is you kind of cut some corners when you were filing your claim. Okay? Don't do that. This is why we consistently preach, take the time to develop your claim, get all of your evidence in there, button it up, okay, before you file it. Put in your intent to file, buy yourself some time, take the pressure off. You know that you've preserved an effective date. You're not going to lose any money. But people get antsy. People are like, I want this decision yesterday and I want to get some money, right? So you got to fight that. You got to fight that urge to just file it. Do everything you can to really develop the nexus. And I know this isn't a nexus video, but I'm going to run through it real quick, the fast version of you have nothing in your medical records at all. Zero. Not a mention of a sign or symptom or anything. And oh, by the way, your condition, Stan likes it.
It's staying related.
Yeah, exactly. So the condition is not a presumptive. So that's not, because there's, again, so much nuance. So now you need to provide a nexus. It's a requirement. You have to do this, but you have nothing in your medical record. Well, what do? Well, you have to write a statement yourself explaining essentially why you don't have anything in your medical records, but it did manifest or as a result of your time in service in some way, some shape, somehow, right? So you need to describe that in your letter. You need to find people that maybe you served with or knew you during the time that you served, at least, who could attest to knowing that, oh yeah, you've always, always seen you with hands full of Motrin, for your migraines. We'll just use migraines. I used to use GERD all the time, but now GERD sucks. So I'm not going to talk about GERD anymore. So yeah, you're always taking Motrin because you always have a headache, migraine. Migraines are just constantly going on. And yeah, I've just always known you that way. So they're going to write you statements attesting to that. Now, you could stop there with that aspect, but I'm kind of an overkill guy to really, the more evidence in your favor, especially when you don't have anything in your service records, probably the better. The way that the VA is going to look at this is if you join the military without any waivers medically, right? You're a blank slate. You're good. There's nothing wrong with you. You were 1,000% good before you joined. So you don't really need to talk about the before I didn't have anything, because they've already done that through MEPS. However, I'm a fan of, if you have a brother, a sister, a mother, a father, somebody who can go, yeah, you never had migraines growing up, and it wasn't until you came home that one leave where all of a sudden you sat down at the dinner table with a thing full of Motrin, and I was like, what the heck? Well, I get migraines all the time. And then they can write you a letter too. It's just additional lay evidence that's now it's kind of shining on the before. Yep, absolutely not. During, yes. And then you're going to have to follow it up. Now that's lay evidence, right? Lay evidence, people that knew you, statements from you, whatever. But now you got to go to the medical evidence side, which is Clay's favorite side, and go get a nexus letter from a medical professional, right? Ideally your doctor, right? Would be good, not your veterinarian. So go to your doctor and have them write you a nexus letter stating that, again, like you had stated, it's at least likely as not, right? The threshold is 50-50. But look, if you have a good relationship with your doctor and they're willing to put in there that it is more than likely, then have them write more than likely, right? I mean, it's just that I usually start off higher and ask for, hey, can you write a letter somewhat to this effect that states that, my migraines are more than likely to have manifested during my time in service. And here's some letters from family, whatever. And if they do, great. And if they're like, I don't know, I mean, I can't really say that, then at least as likely as not, were you willing to say that? That's a coin flip. I mean, come on. And then they probably would. So especially, it kind of brings up the whole thing with doctors, right? VA docs historically don't like to help you much in that regard. So like writing nexus letters and so forth. If you're going to your civilian provider and you're asking them, I usually suggest having a non-combative approach, first of all. And how I kind of preface it or suggest to is, hey, doc, I know you've been seeing me for my migraines, right? Because you're diagnosed. I'm filing some paperwork with the VA so I can get reimbursed for my medical expenses regarding my migraines. Do you mind writing me a little letter that states blah, blah, blah? Look, they're not just doctors. They're also business people. They're there to make money. I mean, they need patients, that type of stuff. So they're a little more, I guess, less apprehensive to help if they kind of feel as though you're just getting reimbursed for the care you're getting from them. It's not like you're going to, well, now I'm going to go see the VA and I'm never going to see you again. You know what I mean? So it just kind of lowers the kind of the bar a little bit and kind of lets it be a less weird thing. And it's just, I think most people have to try to figure out ways they can kind of approach the subject, right? Instead of, hey, I need you to write me a letter. Okay, yeah, I'll get to it when I get to it, right? Versus, hey, I'm submitting paperwork to the VA. I need a letter so I can get reimbursed for my medical expenses. Kind of like the CMP exam, right? Where, hey, I happen to make some notes that I didn't want to miss anything. I just wanted you to know that I'm going to kind of go through this. It's really important to me. Same type of concept, right? So that's really kind of my thoughts with the with the nexus aspect and the denial. The denial can be difficult, sure, but really you got to try to avoid the denial to begin with, and work on all of that. The good thing about the denial is that they do tell you why they denied you, so you're not usually left in the dark. If you're still not sure, work with an accredited rep. They can dig through the VA's system, find out why you were denied, and help you decipher a game plan. The big thing here is don't get so frustrated that you throw your hands in the air and say, screw the VA, screw it all, and walk off into the sunset, all to turn around 5 years from now and go, I want to refile for that, because you're going to lose the back pay. You want to preserve the effective date. So you need to address the denial or the disagreement with the VA within the 1 year period, so that way you can preserve that effective date, Clay.
Oh yeah, you had said something I want to hit on is you shouldn't, if you're at denial, you're kind of cutting corners, and at that point, it's already going downhill. I think is filing easy? I think how a veteran approaches how to file a claim dictates or heavily influences if the CMP exam is going to be easy, if the denial is even a thing. Okay. And even if you have the evidence and you're denied, which absolutely happens, having the evidence makes that denial easy, because you read, hey, you don't have any evidence from service. You're like, yes, I do, because I saw it. I submitted it with my claim, higher level review, right? So not only does submitting evidence make it easy for the VA, but it lets the veteran know your evidence. If the VA tells you don't have any medical records and you don't know, you're just like, oh, I guess I don't have any medical records. But if you know that because you submitted it with your claim, I think it makes the process easier. And the opposite applies. If you don't submit your evidence, hang on tight, right?